Now to an inside look at the agency that has helped keep the U.S. on the cutting edge of technology. In 1958, the military's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency helped put the first weather satellite into space. In the years since, they helped create inventions like the Internet, Siri, and drones. Kylie Atwood spoke with some of their scientists.
Red, I've immediately been alerted there's a threat over there.
This is a Ghostbusters rig on a real-life mission.
If that was a 55-gallon drum full of ammonium nitrate, that would be a very big blast.
Today, American soldiers must be inches away to identify a chemical warfare agent or a homemade bomb. But by next year, they'll be able to do that from as far as 100 feet away.
Any chemical that's a threat to a soldier, we try to detect first.
Ed Daugherty's quest is backed by the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, also known as DARPA.
The biggest threat right now is probably homemade explosives. If you think of fertilizer, and that's what they're using today in Afghanistan to try and blow up our soldiers.
With the help of DARPA, the goal is to shrink this 30-pound backpack into a handheld device.
DARPA is really an engine inside the Defense Department, challenging our military services to think differently.
Stephen Walker is DARPA's director.
It's important for DARPA to understand the technology, to then be able to explain it to our warfighters and our policymakers, and not be surprised by its use or misuse by a peer adversary.
DARPA helped create the Internet, unmanned aerial drones, prosthetic limbs, and Siri. It was created in 1958 in response to the earth-shattering launch of Sputnik by the Soviet Union.
America was surprised when the Russians launched Sputnik. Do you think we'll ever see something like that happen again, where the U.S. is caught off guard?
It's hard to predict the future, but DARPA program managers come to work every day with their hair on fire to prevent technological surprise. Really, the way we found to do that best over the years is to create it.
By a team of mad scientists like Ann Fisher.
We're driven by crazy, that's for sure. How can you be just a step back from crazy so that we can kind of take a risk and then see what we can do in terms of making that risk realizable? And I think about this as my way for service to national security.
DARPA is also working on how to shrink mini robots like these into a size smaller than a human fingertip, hoping they could save lives during recovery efforts, detecting signs of life underneath the rubble of collapsed buildings. First, they have to prove their strength.
We'd like to have them compete in a rock piling competition, a biathlon competition, where we will have them traverse a course.
And these drones are being developed to navigate on their own. The line here shows the drone's brain mapping a course by avoiding obstacles.
Instructing the robot to go up, find a second-story window, go through the second-story window, explore the entire second floor, find a staircase, descend the staircase, and go out through the front door, all on its own.
This is pretty sneaky.
We prefer to think of it as intelligent.
Drone engineers say their main competition comes from China.
They're challenging us in different domains where we used to have a significant lead, and it's more of a competition now.
And what do you say to those who believe that the U.S. has already fallen behind in the technology realm?
I'm not as negative. I think we've still got a lot to offer.
Are they wrong?
I would say they don't know everything that's going on. We're being challenged, no question, in certain areas, but I see what we're doing at DARPA in all areas, and I'm pretty hopeful that we're going to continue to win the tech races of this 21st century.
CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood is in Washington. Kylie, what a fascinating look at this agency. I've only heard sort of bits and pieces. When you see a competition like that and you think about the technology, it really is remarkable. But let's talk about China. Is the U.S. Getting ahead of China at all when it comes to these technological advances?
Well, I pressed Director Walker on that because as I was walking around and talking to the program managers for the number of projects that I was able to see there, a lot of them mentioned China as their primary competitor. Director Walker seems to think that the U.S. still maintains an edge, technologically speaking, especially in the military sphere. But DARPA's budget is about $3.4 billion. That's a large number. But then when you take a step back and look at what China is doing in terms of investment. They have said that they want to nurture a $1 trillion artificial intelligence effort by 2030. That's a lot of money. And so Director Walker said, yes, they're doing well with the money that they have. They're still creating technological surprise, but it is challenging and they will need to invest more money in order to keep up.
And so how is the Trump administration investing in DARPA compared to previous administrations?
So the Trump administration actually right now is allowing DARPA to operate on the biggest budget that it's ever had. And the Trump administration also is going to be creating the Space Force. And DARPA is one of the places actually where most of the space flight engines are developed, and the possibility for flying out to space is really going to become a practical reality. So if they're serious about that Space Force, it's expected that they would actually be investing more money in DARPA in the years to come.
Let me ask you about a specific piece of technology that we saw in your piece there, and I think the word you used was sneaky, the self-flying drone, self-navigating drone. What kind of capabilities would it have? And also, I wonder, I'm just curious, Kylie, in your conversations, when you talk about sort of the ethics of something like this, right? There's already been criticism of drone use in the past by the United States in terms of carrying out strikes against suspected terrorists. Are there discussions like that at all, or is this all about the technology?
Yeah, so there are a lot of discussions about ethics that have to go hand in hand with the development of these technologies here. But DARPA points out that they are working for the Pentagon. They are the research lab of the Pentagon. So they're not really looking at, everyday use here. They're looking at how to maintain the U.S. military advancement and how to be the best on the battlefield. So when we were looking at, those drones, if you just look at a picture of them, I mean, they seem like any normal drone. The crazy thing is they fly on their own. And so they can go into a house and they can look at the whole place, go up staircases, take pictures, and come out. And what that's able to do is for, a military operation, if they can't go into a specific place before the actual operation is going to be carried out, they can rely on those drones to be collecting intelligence for them and really providing them with a map before they set out.
Just remarkable. Well, most of DARPA's inventions are developed for the front lines, but how are they applied on the consumer side?
Yeah, so Elaine, I mean, you heard DARPA help create Siri, it helped create the internet. So what happens is a lot of these projects that they're working on for the military side are then transitioned and used in the consumer world. But another really important area is in terms of local law enforcement. Right now we see a drug epidemic in this country, and some of the drugs that law enforcement come in contact with can be pretty harmful when they're in touch with them. So that backpack that we saw that's being developed to be able to identify a toxin from hundreds of feet away, that backpack can help local law enforcement as well, because they can look at, a specific good, if it's maybe, a drug such as heroin, or if it's something like fentanyl, it can really help them before they go in and before they get their hands dirty and subject themselves to something really harmful.
Yeah, I mean, it's really astounding to think of the technological developments that are happening and the pace with which they're happening. Kylie Atwood, great story. Thank you so much for joining us, Kylie.
Thanks, Elaine.